Al Russo,
Here.
Amy Spallina.
Here.
Thank you. Would you do our public participation? Yeah.
The board welcomes public participations and asks that comments be limited to 3 minutes. The public may offer objective comments of school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about Board of Education personnel and students, nor against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System. Danbury residents are also invited to send brief comments and questions via email in advance to dps_boe@danbury.k12.ct.us.
Thank you, Chris. At this particular time, Laura, do you have any public comments? Would you?
Yes,
Yes.
starting with Jean Piscott. Dear board members, I am to make my opinion clear on the issue of masking in our schools. Our children and all staff must remain masked this year or remote learning must resume. We would be wrong to assume that parents will do the right thing in getting their children tested promptly or safeguard them at home. Many children, even now, are going to summer camp with unvaccinated children, their own age, and masks are not being worn. Many children, like my own stepchildren, are living with family members that are at high risk, have comorbidities, or are immunocompromised. Some live with elderly grandparents, all of whom are susceptible even if vaccinated, and we know that a great many people remain unvaccinated and will continue to remain unvaccinated as well. Children who are also suffering from immunocompromised systems, such as diabetic children, are particularly at risk. Children with special needs, such as many of the spectrum disorders, are also particularly at risk, as their awareness of and tolerance to ability to communicate symptoms of illness following hygiene and mask wearing protocols can also be hampered by their conditions. Therefore, if it falls upon you as leaders to protect the most vulnerable among us by mandating masks be worn in our schools. Personally, myself and my partner are seeing deaths to this variant, even though we are vaccinated in late April, 2 doses with Pfizer. Due to our pre-existing conditions, one of my partner's sons is diabetic, and both have behavioral neurological issues. They and we are among the most vulnerable category, and we are asking for your protection. Keep our children masked. Do all you can to keep them safe. Help us to all remain safe. The next is from Kathy Snow. Hello, first I'd like to say congratulations to Mr. Walston on becoming the Danbury Public School new superintendent. You have big shoes to fill, and I know your experience with the district in partnership with Dr. Pasquarella in past years will assist in your continued success. Secondly, I was able to watch the recording of the meeting that took place on August 25th and heard some members, as well as Chairwoman Cooper, mention that there will be professional development for the board members. My question for tonight is, when is that going to happen? As stated during that meeting, there's always room for improvement, and as we have a new superintendent and we'll have a new member in mayor in Danbury, there is time of the essence for a review of everyone's roles and responsibilities. Next is from Alexa Dawkins. Hi, my daughter attends DHS, and I saw someone post a picture on Twitter of the school hallway during class exchange, and I am terrified. There's no room to walk. The kids are shoulder to shoulder. My daughter said that there was a fire drill and it was a disaster. Something has to be done about this overcrowding. How is this okay with the fire department? Is there not a building occupancy capacity limit? A hybrid model where kids alternate the days that they come into school is absolutely a good way to solve this. This is insane and absolutely not safe beyond COVID worries. I'm concerned for the life of my child. And the last is from Katie Cavallo. I'm concerned about lunch at Broadview Middle School. The kids are only allowed 15 minutes to get food and eat before they have to switch and allow the other group into the cafe. I know there are a lot of kids that need to eat, but it would be possible for more room if we're in the courtyard. I understand that BMS does not have a tent as other schools do, and the reason is because of a tree, which is at least half dead. Why can this tree not be cut down in order to put up a tent? Isn't this something we should have reviewed and taken care of over the summer?
Thank you. We have 2 people that have signed up from the public to speak. We want to start with Alfonso. You can take a seat there, yes. Okay. And you have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Al Robinson, and I'm here to discuss the images that I've seen at Danbury High, and it's particularly in the hallways of students, crowded students, walking in the hallways. I was very, very disturbed by that, very alarmed by that, and very concerned about that because, as you all know, Danbury High School is the largest high school in the state of Connecticut. By far the largest high school in the state of Connecticut, it's not even close. And to have that many people crowded up in those hallways, I would like to know what is the protocol for students in the hallways. I thought there was, you know, arrows and people going in certain directions, and what I saw there was just very concerning. It seemed that the number of cases since the first day of school, I'm quite certain that number is going to increase if those images continue. And I hope that members of the board that signed on to the COVID plan for opening of the schools will be equally as concerned over the images and try to do something about it, because this is about our kids. It shouldn't be about politics or the stuff that's going on out there in the media right now concerning this deadly disease that is killing a lot of people and scaring a lot of parents. A lot of people talk about masking and stuff. I'm more concerned about the number of kids walking around in close proximity to each other. And you have a lot of people who don't want to be vaccinated. You have a lot of people who don't want to be masked. And these people are walking around with people who want to live. For me, this is why remote learning is necessary, because I think we have too many kids walking around in this school in close proximity to each other. The images don't lie. And I like to thank the students who are providing those images. And I encourage them to continue to do that, continue to speak out. It's your right to speak out, because it's your life that are on the line. And we won't know unless you tell us what's going on. So thank you for your time, and good luck.
Thank you. Carly?
It looks like, is that Carly Van Waddam?
I didn't sign up to speak.
Oh, were you just signing?
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you anyway. Okay. If there's no one else that want to come before the board, we're going to move on with our agenda. Kate, would you do the consent form? Please take care of it, please.
Certainly. I'll make a motion that the Board of Education approve the items on the consent calendar, Exhibit 21-98 through 21-100, as recommended.
Second.
Motion moved by Kate, seconded by Joe De Silva. Any questions or concerning the minutes? Any corrections? Seeing none, Kate, do the roll call, please.
Rachel Chalesky?
Aye.
Kate Canetta? Aye. Gladys Cooper?
Yes.
Lauren Daly?
Aye.
Joe De Silva?
Aye.
Catherine Hodgson?
Aye.
Al Russo?
Aye.
Amy Spallino?
Aye.
Thank you. The consent calendar is approved. Next on the agenda, we don't have any our educational staff here to report. We're going to move on. We don't have our student reps. We're going to move on to the superintendent report.
If I can get the mic on, Ms. Cooper. I know the room can hear me, but I don't know about people at home. Good evening, everyone. So, good evening, everyone. Is that loud enough, yeah? Is it not working? Can you hear me okay? evening, everyone. Superintendent's report. We're just going to start out this evening, number one, just by welcoming back our kids, welcoming back our staff, welcoming back our parents. Last week, we almost made it a full week without closing school. To my fortunate surprise, we had to close school last Thursday, so we almost made it a full week. I can't believe my first week as a superintendent, we had to close school already. But I'm hoping, in all seriousness, I'm hoping that families are safe, because I do know that it impacted many of our families, many of our kids in the community. So certainly the district hopes that our families and our kids are in good standing and healthy and safe. And certainly the district is available for them as a resource if they need our help. I also just want to also share, I know it's been a tough week for busing and transportation district-wide. And so as part of the superintendent's report this evening, we're going to have Danbury High School speak to a presentation, just talk about the first week of school at Danbury High School. We also have Danbury High School athletics we're going to speak to this evening, and then COVID-related absences and vaccine verification process, amongst others. I just want to start out by saying I'm not sure if our parents are aware, and our community is aware, but I know transportation has been a challenge for us the first 4 or 5 days of school. And so I wanted to make sure I acknowledge that for the board and for the community this evening. We have Danbury Public Schools, but also the state of Connecticut, this particular region, and it's a nationwide issue with shortage of buses across the country. We have, I was hoping, quite frankly, that this would be a problem that would pass us by, but unfortunately, we have also had to deal with the shortage directly right here in Danbury. Our bus company has been an amazing partner to date, and they continue to be an amazing partner, but they are also challenged with the shortage. We have talked to STA about bringing on additional buses to the fleet to help with efficiencies in buses. They've informed us they are able to get the buses, and so it's not about money and resources to fund the buses. The challenge has been finding folks to drive the buses. So that is something we'll continue to work on. My understanding is some of the qualifications for bus drivers has been relaxed a bit, so we're hoping there's going to be an increase in available drivers for us here in Danbury, and hopefully those things will improve soon. I've also talked, and so our district will continue to monitor and continue to work with STA, one of our bus transportation partner, to make sure that we continue to stay on top of this, and we'll continue to have updates for you and the board and the community as we move forward. There are also things and efficiencies we can find right here in the district in regards to transportation. So now that we've almost completed 5 full days as a school district, we have our first official admin meeting tomorrow with all the principals. So we'll be talking about how we can get better within the school district just in terms of our practices to try to just make sure that our buses are a little timelier than they have been so far. So I just wanted the parents and the board to know that is something we continue to work on, acknowledge the challenges of the first week, and we look forward to some improved efficiencies over time. I've asked our principal, Dan Donovan, to join us this evening. Of course, we could have asked all the principals to come in here this evening to talk about kind of the first week of school, but uniquely, Dan is positioned a little uniquely in that we have tents erected at Danbury High School. He's not the only school with tents outside to feed kids. However, his tents are there for the purpose of feeding students for lunch, to spread up to 800 to 900 students out during lunch. And we are going into the winter months. The board might recall, I believe it was, I know it was last spring, when Dr. Pasquarelli and I presented to the board our budget for the 21-22 school year. The district has budgeted for tents for the rest of the school year up until June. And that is through inclement weather and weather like right now. Inclement weather would mean we are heating the tents, that we are cooling the tents, we have closed tents, open tents, all throughout the school year, and it comes at a significant cost. Dan has some options that he would like to review with the board and with the community. And although I'm certainly not asking for a solution this evening, I am asking for an opportunity to talk about this further in committee But I wanted to make sure that the board and the community had an opportunity to hear what the high school has been thinking about in terms of options in the event we want to pivot and consider something different. So, Mr. Donovan, we have a mic here, and I know Barb, well, we may need one for TV.
You were working before. Yeah. Turn it on left. He's taking it.
Thank you for having me. It's not working. I'm closer to that. Thanks for having me. Before I get into talking about a couple, or at least the one option that we think may work, I'd like to talk about the opening of school and how it went. It was absolutely fabulous to see students back in this building. I forgot what 3,400 students looks like coming in the morning, leaving in the afternoon. It's quite impressive for us to get them on the buses on the way home in 12 minutes. It's impressive to see, and then have them roll out. The first day we did it, we were probably about 220 before they left, and now we're down to about 210. So our goal is usually about 208, 8 minutes to get all the students out and about. We'll get there, but this is only, with the day off, our 5th or 6th day of school, so it takes a little bit to get it going. So we're continue to work on that part. The next part is, to address the overcrowding in Danbury High School. Danbury High School is crowded. That's why we're building another academy. You're all aware of that. That's why we're building stuff on the west side. The pictures that you see on the internet, as the gentleman said, pictures don't lie. It's very crowded normally, but I can tell you, this being my 16th year in this building, it's not any more or any less than any start of school we've had. Every year when we come in, we have to teach probably about 850 freshmen how to walk through the hallways and where to go. As many of the board members have known, when they come into the building, everyone uses the first ramp when they come in, the first bridge coming down. There's 4 other ways to get around. We just haven't figured them out yet. So we're out there with the safety advocates and administrators and teachers and everybody making our one-way stairwells and all that stuff work. This year's a little bit more challenging because we have 2 grades that have not been in this building. So now we have a larger now, plus some juniors that were only in the freshman academy building until March. So they're not real familiar with getting around. So we've done things, one-way stairwells. We've made some directional changes, and we're going to monitor it probably for about another week or so. If that doesn't, we don't see the improvement that they want, it's always going to be crowded. If we're not out there, we're always monitoring and looking at the cameras in the school to see where our congestion points are. And it's always down here at the end of D3, right where the first bridge comes. So we have people stationed there to try to work the traffic going through. I stand at the bottom of C3, which is a down stairwell, and we put the doors in to circle people around. So now it's kind of like one of those roundabouts you drive through. Everyone's got to go a little the same direction. It works pretty well, actually. So from there, if it doesn't improve to our satisfaction, which, like I said, will take another 5 days or so to see where we're going, telling kids the way, teachers direct them. There's a whole other bridge over here you can use, or you can go downstairs. There's no reason to crowd up there. We'll start talking about dismissing at different times out of classes and different populations of students, whether it's A through L goes first or something like that. We can't do grades because if I dismiss half the building at one point, they don't know where to go. They don't have any, so they're going to stand in the hallway, which causes a bigger problem. So we have to create spaces in all buildings so they can go and walk into those classrooms. So those are all the things we're looking at. But it is crowded. We're well aware of it. We're going to monitor it closely. Second one is masks. Students have been doing a fabulous job with the mask. Majority, most thing we get is this, with it under their nose, and you just go like that, and they put it right back up. We've had no problems with that so far. They break, and when you see a student walking up to you like that, you know that their mask broke somewhere, so we give them another one. But they've done a nice job, and I applaud the students and staff for their work for that. The first couple of days when it was really hot in the building, it was tough. Today was a little warm, but as it cools down, I'm hoping that changes the uncomfortableness of it. But we have to do it, and so we're there working on it. Lastly is the lunches that we're talking about, as Kevin mentioned. You know, we have to feed approximately 850 per. I think our lunch weight ranged from about 790 to about 850. It's 30 minutes to get kids in and out. It's worked out pretty well. The first day was a little tight, so we had to make some adjustments on where students line up to receive their lunches, and then the 30 minutes is what it was 2 years ago, so that's not much of a change for them. And the outside parts, you know, as much as we said, hey, there's 3 tents outside, and there's one right out the hill all the way down at this side, students stayed in the cafeteria, we're looking for places, and we're like, come outside. It's starting to, the nicer days, be more students outside than inside, which is a good thing. More students are starting to use down here. The concerns we have is inclement weather. You know, when we get big rainstorms, yeah, they're covered, but then the ground is soaked. And one of the tents is on a grass courtyard. So we couldn't use desks down there because the desks would sink through. So we put our blue round tables out there, which cut our seating a little bit, but we still have adequate seating for everybody. The solution that we kind of came up with changes our schedule, which is something that I don't want to do because adjustments are difficult when you're talking about trying to communicate with 3,400 kids and families out there about how we're going to do it. But that's the only thing I could see that I would like to pursue a little bit further, if the board allows it, if Kevin allows it, is we would have to end up serving our lunches in the classrooms, allowing them to go at certain spots, get their lunches, kids that want it, and then go back to the classroom, eat there. The teachers would have to monitor those students because I do not have enough security guards or lunch ladies or anybody to cover those classes. And then we'd have to dismiss 10 minutes early at 1:50 so we can contractually give our teachers their half-hour lunch between 1:50 and 2:20. And it's the only way that I feel that we can get their prep and their lunch throughout the day, so we're not violating their contract, which is a big thing. We don't want to do that or put the district in jeopardy. We also looked at a solution to pay our teachers duties, but that came out to about $600,000 for the year, so it really wasn't a solution for us. So what it looks like is actually more instructional time for students. I think the classes go from 74 to 77 minutes off the top of my head. But students will have a 20 if we want to extend that to 25-minute lunch in their room where they can talking to Sodexo, set up kiosks in the hallways, and we'll just do it like a lunch wave on where they go, and then they'll just go back to their classrooms.
So I asked Principal Donovan to come this evening. I think certainly requires further investigation and conversation. So I shared with Dan, because we've been talking about this for some time now, but I shared with Dan I was really concerned about the board and the district investing these monies in a tent for 10 to 15 minutes. We're talking, the board might recall, we budgeted almost $700,000 for tents. And we may want to revisit that number and revisit this option and see if there are other ways that perhaps we can reinvest those monies. But I think if in committee we can have an opportunity to review in more detail, kind of see what our options are, what the impact would be on the community, and see if this is a viable option for us. But that is certainly my recommendation. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Just a question, and all credit to Dan for managing an unmanageable situation. And Mr. Robinson's comment was well taken in his traffic. Just for clarity's sake, I've read 2 articles, one in the News Times, one in the North Hour, that have made it abundantly clear we are not allowed to do distance learning this year, correct?
That is correct.
It is barred by the state, so we have no other option but to be here full time.
Right, those days are not acknowledged.
Right.
Those remote days, right?
In other words, if we're hybrid or DL, any day we're not physically in the building will not count to the 180.
Correct.
So, in other words, we don't have an option.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Principal Donovan, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And so just to sake of consistency, I also asked our athletic director, Mrs. Alstrini, to join us this evening. There's actually an impact on busing and transportation on our extracurricular and athletic program. I'm not suggesting, we're not asking the board for any solution, but I just wanted to make the board and the community aware of the impact this is having on our extracurricular activities. Chip has done an amazing job finding solutions, so I just want to applaud you publicly. But we thought it was important to make the community aware because it does impact many of our families and potentially some of our kids' programming. Chip.
The bus issue for, let me just say, as far as athletics is concerned, we're an educational-based program, and what comes first, as far as busing, and I made this pretty clear to the bus company, I certainly understand the need to handle the daily routes for kids getting back and forth to school. And what I'm going to tell you about is that we're a program that is absolutely huge. In comparison, you hear stories, I've just heard a few people talk about the size of the high school, the crushing of facilities. It's the same in athletics. I mean, we work with what we have, but from a standpoint of growth and size, we have 600, maybe 700 athletes. It hasn't really balanced yet, but we're about that many for the fall. And with that comes approximately 350 interscholastic athletic events during the fall, 20 teams. Half of those teams, half of those events of 350, 160, give or take, are on the road, meaning we need buses. Not to mention, because of and we have beautiful facilities, don't get me wrong, but we don't have enough for the size of our program. So what we have to do is we have to bus our kids all around the city of Danbury to get to practice facilities, because we just can't put 700 kids in a 2 to 5 block at the end of the school day. And that leads us to the bus issue. So not only do we depend on 160 trips to send our kids down to Lower Fairfield County to participate, we deal with as many as 10 trips a week just to get our kids to different parts of the town, to the city. So on August 11th, I get an email from STA and say, you have to make a decision. We're not going to be able to give you buses at 2:30 anymore. We can only give you buses at 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock. That particular time, I don't know, I went probably blank, because we build our program based on 2:30 departures. Kids go out, they play at 4 o'clock, teams go out, they go to different parts of the city for practice. We build it at 2:30. Now they're telling us, hey, wait a minute, I can only give you, the bus company says we can only give you about 50 trips out of the 160. So we are left 3 weeks ago attempting to find transportation. So the point being is that we're in trouble. We're managing it. As I told Superintendent this afternoon, we're looking at 2-week blocks. So for the next 2 weeks, I know I can get the kids to where they need to go. But after that, it becomes real tricky, real sticky. From now to October 10th, I have to find somewhere between 25 and 30 carriers to pick up trips for us. Okay? Normal trips, as an example, might cost us a couple $100 to go to Stanford, but when you go to outside carriers, now that could quadruple. Okay? And finding them, because of the bus issues across the country, all the school districts across Connecticut, New York, Westchester County have gobbled up all the transportation carriers. So we're all out there fighting each other for space. What could happen? We're not going to try not to let it happen, but I don't want to be faced with a situation that we may have to say to our teams, you can't go. That would be a real problem. And that's what I wanted to bring forward. I brought it to the superintendent, Frank Connolly, about 3 weeks ago. It's a real issue for us. Like I said, we're managing it. We're trying to get through, and STA has been absolutely wonderful. In fact, we started out with about 110 trips that we needed. We're down to probably 50, 60, because they've been able to move things and help us. That could happen the rest of the way, but not likely. So, as the superintendent said, I think it's important that you hear that. Maybe have some discussions to maybe figure a way, or maybe just talk about it, because we can impact up to 600 to 700 kids here at any time. And as again, I want to point out that STA has bent over backwards to support us with this. And they're, training the drivers and doing all that kind of things, but it may not be enough. And we felt this a little bit last spring when Norwalk, Stanford were starting to feel it, and our companies were able to get us through. And then the door has fallen off the hinges because Bridgeport was just told last week the 3 schools down there, they don't have buses now for kids to go to games. That's what their company just told them. I'm afraid I don't want that to happen to us. So that's kind of what we're dealing with at this particular point. And I'm very hopeful that we can make it work, but it's going to be a difficult task.
Chair, thank you. And Chip, and I just want to say in front of the committee and the board, Chip has been an amazing advocate for our kids and our programming. He's been faced, like Dan, like all of our principals, quite frankly, in the district, been faced with some impossible tasks these last couple of weeks in particular. Chip, I want to thank you for trying to find ways to make sure our kids have access to these programming. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So talking about difficult, I'll just transition to number 3. And COVID-related absences and vaccine verification process. Do you have a mic?
No, but I have a really loud voice.
So Kim Thompson is going to walk us through this process, which has become another challenge for the district for us to work through.
Yeah. This is like one of those bad jokes. How many administrators does it take to turn on a mic? Yeah. Does it work? No. All right, I'm just going to yell. Can I yell? Is that all right? Can you hear me okay over there? Yes? Okay. So as many of you know, not all that long ago, the governor issued an executive order that is now requiring us to obtain records of vaccinations, so vaccination cards from those of our employees who have been vaccinated, or to inquire as to whether or not they are in progress, or to discuss with them exemptions and to process requests for certain kinds of exemptions, or ultimately for those who are not fully vaccinated to engage in testing. So it's a pretty complicated executive order. It's got a lot of steps to it and not a lot of guidance. So somebody told me recently this really funny analogy about when you're in the room with a large elephant, just take a bite of the elephant and start. So that's what we have done. We started today. A mass email went out, and I included all of you on it today, that went to all hands in Danbury Public Schools, including apparently a couple of people who don't work for us anymore, so go figure. But what that did was it asked people to do 2 things. One, to go into our new super duper recently launched employee portal, which has a few bugs. Anybody listening at home has a few bugs in it that we're trying to work out, but it asks you to go in and log into the employee portal. That employee portal, kind of as an aside, is going to be a very robust place where we will have things like your employment history, your pay history, your time off, all kinds of things, and information about your insurance. So right now, it houses a form that asks you to follow a couple of prompts telling us what your status is. And then part 2 is if you are fully vaccinated or have a vaccination in progress, to email to us to dps.vaccine@danbury.k12.ct.us a copy of your vaccine card. So we are in the process, actually you may have seen me typing, we are in the process of now moving those cards into our system and trying to get a handle on how many people. Sick day, or if you have some sort of a COVID-related illness. So our protocols have changed somewhat, and they're changing based on the guidance that we're getting. For example, if you are fully vaccinated and you have an exposure, you are no longer required to quarantine. So it has a chart in it that walks everyone through all of the eventualities. We tried to think of as many as we could and pulled many from the reentry plan that is sitting on our website as well. And we have modified slightly some of our ASOP automated absence categories so that our employees know what to do if they have COVID-like symptoms, depending on their vaccine status. So it starts to get a little complicated, but we've tried to push out as many charts and helpful guidelines as we can until everybody kind of becomes more accustomed to the manner in which we're going to operate. So those two things are all ongoing right now, and you'll find that my team is busy trying to figure out the best way to corral all this information to make sure that we keep it as confidential as possible, and to try to give our staff and our employees and our substitutes and our itinerant workers and our vendor folks to give everybody as much guidance as we can about what we need to see. And as we round the bend to the end of the month, it will become tighter and tighter because no one will be allowed to come to work without meeting one of these criteria. So we're busy trying to craft the pyramid for that as well.
Question? We did a really successful, we managed, Kelly, I think, was chief in charge of organizing the herding of the cats in the spring.
Yes.
A really successful clinic.
Yes.
It may sound strange, is there a way to use the information
Yes.
we have from that to go, okay, this 65% of this group, we know all these people who
Yep.
vaccinated. We
Yep.
can't.
We do. We're trying to kind of be at cross purposes here. We also can, under certain circumstances, access vans, and I know Kathy has had a lot of conversations with Carol County about kind of what the scope is of what we can access as well. So, and I know as recently as last week, Kathy pushed out some advice to folks who lost their vaccine cards and how they can get new cards. So, I mean, anybody who's kind of been out in the world, you're starting to see, you're going to have to produce it. And so people, I think, have looked to us for some guidance on how do they get another copy or that kind of thing. So, yes, short answer is we're cross-referencing.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Right. Thank God for computers.
I'll second.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so the next one, I want to speak to enrollment update. I know the board had an interest in how enrollment was going in the district. So I will start off the enrollment update by saying to the board and the community that Danbury remains popular amongst families seeking a place to live in Connecticut. Last year, October 1st, we had a reported enrollment to the state of 11,660. That was as of October 1st last year. As of September 8th, we are at 11,711, and we have pending 327 more students with outstanding paperwork, but we anticipate the majority of those students will be joining us. And typically, this time of year, next week and the week after, we typically get an additional wave of students and families coming into Danbury, so we're anticipating an additional 100. So that'll be a plus of, we're anticipating at least 400 to 450 additional students by October 1st. So last year again, we were at 11,660. We were expecting close to 12,000, another 400 to 450 students by October 1st. Of course, we may continue to receive families. We always continue to get another rush of students in January and February. But in terms of what we report to the state, those numbers don't become official until the following October. So that's my long way of saying Danbury remains and continues to be popular. And we continue to open our doors, and we will continue to advocate for more space in more schools. So let me just also update the board about the solar project. I believe I provided an update at our last meeting. There was an interest by the city to have solar panels installed at our schools throughout schools in the district. That project is moving forward. I just wanted to make the board aware. We are trying to meet the middle of the month deadline at the latest. It will be submitted by the end of September. We are working with the city. The city helps us with the grant submission. So there's kind of like a relay, if you will. We kind of hand the baton to the city and submit a number of materials and documents to the city, and then the city follows up what kind of the specs that is needed for the actual grant. And then we also work with the provider to provide that, any outstanding information that the district does not have. So we don't anticipate any issues with the submission, but just wanted to make the board aware, and we'll come back with the final submission probably by next board meeting. But I just wanted to make you aware that the city and us, and the vendor, we've all been partnered on this project, and anticipate that it'll be submitted on time. And last but not least, I wanted to speak to the two gentlemen in front of me this evening, the new gentleman to the district in front of me. One, we have, the board might recall, we had two important positions leaving us for another district this summer. Our director of finance left us this summer. Our assistant director of finance also left us this summer. And we have been fortunate enough to find two capable, talented gentlemen in the audience. One joining us from higher education in the state of Connecticut, and another one joining us from a school district in Upper Connecticut, worked on the municipal side and the school district side. So I'll start with Mr. Eduardo Miranda. Mr. Miranda comes from us from higher education in the Hartford area. Strong background in operations, but also a strong background in finance and an MBA in finance. We are very excited to be bringing him aboard. This position, again, I had mentioned earlier, used to be the assistant finance director. We have changed the title, number one, to make it a little bit more enticing, a little bit more appealing, but we were that encouraged by Mr. Miranda's talents, and we couldn't let him go. And so Mr. Miranda had an opportunity to meet with the interview committees. All the interview committees fell in love with him. We met with the two candidates as well. We fell in love with him. And so we decided we just had to figure out a way to make this work. We just felt like he was too important of a fit and too good of a fit to let him get away. We made the offer attractive enough to encourage, I think I shook his hand really hard, encourage him to join us here in Danbury, and he accepted. And so I just want to start out by introducing our new Deputy Director of Finance. This position will be reporting to our Chief Finance Director Officer, who I'll be introducing shortly. But I want to start by introducing Mr. Eduardo Miranda. Mr. Miranda, thank you. And thank you for joining us this evening.
Guys, thank you. Excited.
Thank you. And secondly, Mr. John Sting is going to be our new Chief Finance Officer. And in this role, Eduardo Miranda will be reporting to him. Quite frankly, I think we feel like we're just in an amazing position right now to find this talent at this time of the year in the summer, just before school opens. John is currently working in a district in Upper Connecticut. Prior to that, he has worked in high-performing districts as Assistant Finance Director and Director of Finance. We are really fortunate in that John is currently working as the Finance Director on the city side and the Finance Director on the district side. So we have someone who's going to help us navigate the budgeting process when that time comes. John and I have had an opportunity to talk several times before this evening. The same thing with Mr. Miranda. I think they're both going to be amazing fits to our team, amazing fits to our school community. And so without further ado, I want to also introduce Mr. John Spang, and welcome to Danbury, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and our privilege to work. I'm very excited to get started. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. And so, Ms. Cooper, that is...
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
We also need to talk about the primary mental health.
I jumped over
You
Jay. See,
did.
I was so excited to introduce Ed and John. I jumped right over the grant. Thank you, Kelly.
Perfect,
Please.
yes. Okay, thank you. Congratulations, both Eduardo and John. I didn't mean to steal away, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity to chat. As the Board of Education knows, we have applied for the Primary Mental Health Program grant for well over 10 years. As far back I could find records was 10 years. We call this our Special Friends Program. It's currently running at 3 of our elementary schools, Park Avenue, Morris Street, and AIS. And the purpose of this grant is to hire in what we call child associates, or there are children's special friends, to serve as a tier 2 intervention to provide social, emotional, and behavioral support to students that we see are at risk for having any of those precursors to academic failure. And so we want to intervene with them. We engage the parents. We provide one-on-one counseling support through that child associate position, as well as some small group social skills. We also do a parent evening where we provide an educational program for parents on how to support their children at home. And we also do some nightly activities that are ice cream, pizza party, and so forth to bring parents and children into the school environment after school. I have to give credit to our pupil services staff, our social workers and psychologists in the 3 of these schools are the primary contacts to identify the students that could benefit from this, and then work with our child associates to give some support and intervention. So as a priority and Alliance School District, we are allowed to apply for the grant again. It is a $20,000 grant. One of the terms or conditions of this grant is that the district also supports with $6,000. We have done this historically throughout the grant process, and we have budgeted for that this year. See? And so we just want to make sure that we informed everyone of our intent to move forward with this application. So I don't know if there's any questions by anyone on the board.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kelly.
And I
Thank you,
know
Kelly.
Kim has hiring update.
So just to update you on where we are, we have had a banner year. So far to date, we have brought in 189 certified staff members and 98 non-certified staff members. And those are folks that we have brought in, we have fully processed. One of the silver linings of COVID was it had us all virtual in onboarding, so we've been able to really run really quickly and I think more efficiently. We had some temporary help in that helped my crew push all of these folks through the system. And so we are looking now at very few gaps. We still have a couple of holes to fill. But we're doing pretty well. We continue to struggle in all the usual areas. Special education teachers continue to pose some hardship for us in finding enough of them. And paraprofessionals, I think we have 75 open spots right now. So if anyone knows a paraprofessional, this is an advertisement for anyone interested in working in the Danbury Public Schools. But those are the areas that we'll continue to work now on, trying to go out, see if we can find some more candidates to fill some of those really hard to fill, but really important spots for our special needs kids. So that will kind of draw our attention. So I'm hoping to be able to bring you, as the weeks unfold, not only some vaccination information, but also some demographic information, so we can continue to look at the profile of our workforce and see how we do kind of year over year. But so far, I think I speak for all the administrators in saying that we got some really terrific people across the board in all categories, and we've been very excited to bring them in and see them get started in person, which has been great.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper, I believe this really concludes the superintendent report.
I just have a question, the information that Mr. Danbury is talking about. Do you have any time frame that you would like for the board, the entire board, to hear this as a workshop and really understand it and sort of think about it? Because the winter months is getting closer, and if we need to do this before the kids, really start eating outside. You have a time frame that you want to bring this before the board.
Yes, thank you for the question, Ms. Cooper. I think by the latest, we need to get back by the first board meeting in October, and this will give us time to meet in committee and have an opportunity for the board to discuss and kind of digest what they heard from Principal Donovan tonight, and I think that will position us for the first board meeting in October. Thank you very much.
My report is very brief. I am trying to finalize a date with K to do board self-evaluation. We need to get that done before the end of the year. So I haven't finalized the date yet, but I will try to finalize it by the end of the week, so all board members come out. And in that, that presentation should be a part where we talk about roles and responsibility and professional development. But the main thing is to do board self-evaluation. That needs to be done at least once a year. Okay. And then the next project that we are working on, and I'm trying to get set up with our Sites and Facility Committee, is to really sit down and talk about, as a board, looking at our structures, how we can sort of improve. We can't improve too many of our schools because they're overcrowded, but have some type of vision and support to talk about another middle school or elementary school. Okay, it won't be, something, but I think we need to start talking about it. So I haven't finalized that yet with the Sites and Facility Committee, along with our superintendent, but some of the things that I have been having discussion with other board members. So that's in my report. I don't know if any board members have any questions. Okay. Yes.
Madam Chair, if I could just circle back towards the lunch issue at Danbury High School.
Mm-hmm.
We're spending $600,000 in tents, Mr. Wilson.
So we're budgeted for a little over $600,000 in tents. The first months for the leasing district-wide is close to $70,000 a month.
My thought was, we need to modify the teacher's contract to put the kids in classrooms for $600,000. Can we do that instead of the tents, or do we need both resources?
I'm sorry, Mr. Russo, can you ask that question? Can you ask that question again? Sorry.
Okay. To modify the teacher's contract, put teachers in the classroom so we can have lunch in the classrooms for the students, it's approximately $600,000. Now, could we recoup some of the tent money and put it towards the teachers to keep the kids in the classrooms for lunch, or do we require both resources?
Okay, no, we will not need both. So the option that Principal Donovan was referring to, if our students were to eat in the classroom, we would certainly have to meet with the teachers as a bargaining unit to talk about the impact on their workday. However, we would not be feeding kids in the cafeteria, so the tents would no longer be required. However, we would be talking to the bargaining unit to just talk about what does this mean to their workday, so that Dan mentioned earlier, we still have to make sure they get their lunch and their prep. And so that's why it would be important for the students to still leave earlier in the school day, and I think that's what Donovan was referring to earlier. There may be an impact in terms of the cost, but it would not cost us nearly as much money as we're talking about. And perhaps no cost, but that's something that needs to be discussed.
I'm sorry, I thought I heard $600,000 option to make the teachers whole in their contract, to have them monitor classrooms during lunch.
No, we would not. No, that would not be required.
Okay, thank you.
They may ask for it now, though, Mr. Russo.
They can ask.
We have on the agenda, implemented items.
Yes, so I wanted to make the board aware that the T-Val committee is meeting on Monday the 13th in an effort to hopefully finalize the teacher evaluation plan for the 21-22 school year. The district is required to submit its final plan no later than October 1st. In our last meeting, I believe it was the end of August, we had charged some teachers and administrators on the team to come back with some recommendations for the evaluation committee for the upcoming school year. The 2021 school year, we had essentially 3 priorities, and that was student engagement, parent engagement, and supporting providing social emotional support for students and staff. The state has asked districts to continue with those 3 priorities, except this time it counts toward the final evaluation. And so, from the administrators and the teachers' leadership, right now, I feel like we're on solid ground in terms of the plan and moving forward with that as a plan as a district. There's just a couple of particulars that the committee needs to work on. And so for our next board meeting, we will have a recommended plan for the board to approve, hopefully, and we'll be submitting that plan no later than October 1st.
Yes.
I think we have a board liaison for the T-Val committee, is that correct?
Yes. Yes,
Amy
Amy's the
and
liaison.
myself, and maybe Mr. Janelli. Maybe, all three of us don't have to represent the board, but,
Yes,
you know, if you'd like to invite one of us.
yes. Amy was at the last meeting. I don't know.
I'm signed up to go to the one on Monday.
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
You guys back?
No, that's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm still on.
Was it T-Val or T-Val? T-Val.
I don't know.
And I'll have the list in front of me. Okay.
I
I'll
think you might have
confirm.
an old
think you're
list.
on
Yeah,
I'm on TJ.
I think so.
Okay.
I think you was.
Yeah, so it's all together on my list, TDEC and TDEC.
If there's no other questions, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And I would like to thank you for coming here and being a part of our meeting and to be a part of our family. We might fight a little bit, but we still gonna get along. But it's good, thank you for coming and walking.
Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Joe, seconded by Al. All in favor? Good night.
Actually, Rachel, I have Amy that's talking to this one. Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. I'm not sure when she's departing, but.